It's DinoRWskel2 again, and I'm doing Real World Skeletons episode 2, which basically is skeletons, which is the beach. Now, we come off the episode here where all the girls got kind of mad at Madison here because of not paying here, but at the end of the other episode, Madison kind of went off on her own, which kind of scared everyone, and then they brought her back, and and then this episode was a little different. This was an episode where everyone else in the house started calling their friends outside the house and say, okay, why don't we go hang out? Tony was one, Violetta was another one. And what happened was, in this particular episode, is Violetta called one of her friends to come over here, and that was just kind of the beginning of it. And then basically here, Madison is trying. Before this whole happens, though, is they all decide to go to the beach. And also they go to the park, the Chicago Bean Park, where you have the chrome bean that would sit there and just be this big chrome bean, so which is kind of funny on that. And they do this chrome, I mean, they get their pictures in there, but then they also go to the beach. Now, here's the thing: is Tony and Madison are kind of a lot because they've been talking a lot, and the other girls kind of go do their thing, and there's a little bit of a separation here. Um, and then they go to the beach, and then what happens is Madison kind of goes off on her own, where it pisses everyone off. Because they don't know what's going on with her or whatever happened, and everyone, some of them are just like, don't worry about it, we'll find her. She's just probably around here at the beach, and the girls were starting to wonder. Even Bruno started to wonder. He said because he couldn't handle it if anyone here. So eventually they find her. She was at another group or party, and they bring her over, and they all go back. And then this is where things kind of turn funny, is that people get into these arguments with each other about just just back and forth. And Bruno's saying, you know what, Madison, you do need help. You do need this. Because I'm not going to babysit you. If you're going to run off and do these things and not tell anyone what you're doing, then you're not worth watching. I'm sorry. And she's like, oh. And he says, don't do the cry act with me. I knew you knew what you were doing. And all that. So he leaves, and then Tony's like, it's okay. And the other girls are kind of saying the same thing on that. And then while all this is going on, Violetta has her friend over, and then Violetta's friend gets drunk, and she has to pass out on Violetta's bed, which then pisses off Tony, saying, what the hell? Why are you bringing this person back? Why am I even dealing with this? And it gets to the point, Tony was kind of drunk. I think he was getting pissed off at Violetta because she's the one that seems to be stirring a lot of this up. And then Tony, even Madison was trying to tell Tony to calm down. Tony goes over to the producer's phone and then calls her up and says, hey, if we vote Violetta out, can she leave? On that, and they're like, "Oh yeah." It says, "Well, and then he hangs up the phone, and then you better vote her out." And then it just gets ugly, and it's boring, honestly, because it's not even that interesting. It's like, okay, we're just having a conflict, and Tony's trying to act out, And honestly, over time, the Wolf Pack, which is now really Nicole, Jason, and Bruno. And they're just kind of like want to still go out and have fun. I find that interesting how this episode, they kind of push the Wolfpack thing a little with those three. And then later on, that Tony asks, hey, can I Wolfpack with you guys? And they're like, oh, sure. And here's the thing. Okay. And I know they're using this from the movie The Hangover. But the wolf pack, the real wolf pack, even goes back further than that. My first recollection of the wolf pack was a wrestling term. Now, here's the thing. It was simply Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Six. On that, and yes, they had a guy there named Six, SYXX, which probably was some acronym for sex on that, but Six. And they were on the time when WCW NWO was dominating ratings in television. They were known as the Wolfpack. Well, then here comes the movie Hangover, and I believe the kind of fish out of water Alan, the guy with the beard, he likes wrestling. And then he coined the phrase in the movie. He said, dude, with Bradley Cooper and the other guys, like, dude, we're the Wolfpack. And now they're saying the same thing. So, I know they're probably referencing The Hangover, but you gotta give credit where credit was due. Is the real Wolfpack. If you even, now the people may say to me, no, that's not the real Wolfpack. No, the real Wolfpack was Sinatra. Wrong. Sinatra was the Rat Pack. That was Joey Bishop, Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, and Frank Sinatra. And I think I'm missing one person there. Oh, yeah, it was actually a woman. Shoot. It was a woman. She was part of it. There was another one, but it was a woman that was part of the Rat Pack on that. But the Wolf Pack was Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Six. And then the Hangover kind of coined it, which at the time they were here, but not here. Now, the thing is, it's easy to say, whatever, you're copying. Yeah, it's not true, because everyone else who goes out with friends or family or whatever, they have their own crew or wolf pack, and they may call it that. You know, flattery, imitation is the best form of flattery. Because if you can imitate it, you know, you're giving props to the original. So I would have to say that they're imitating it, but they're not. I'm sure they're referencing The Hangover more than WCW wrestling in the 90s. But they go out and do their little thing, and they're just, woo, you know, everyone's having a good time, and then the girls are kind of by themselves, and Tony, and now we're starting to see some of the skeletons, whereas Tony has a girlfriend at his house, at home, which he didn't tell Madison about, and this other girl and these other two girls have these women that just hate their guts, or they hate their guts, like they're gonna kill them. And there's even one scene where the sneak preview, they're like, if you bring that woman, you know there's gonna be a murder here on that. And now here's the thing. I thought about that for just a minute, and my experience with the law is not that great. But I would believe if you did that on television, where you would say that there's potentially a murder, that could be construed as a threat. And why? I question that. Why would MTV let this slide? Because before they would throw people off. Here, let's rewind the clock. Let's rewind the clock a little bit. If anyone sees this, go back to the Real World Los Angeles, 1992, okay, and think about there was an incident that made national headlines, and it was a television show. It was with a character named David, who all the kids in the house were going a little crazy, got a little hyper, and all he did was grab blankets onto this one girl. I can't remember her name, but I remember her friend's name, Beth, who kept instigating it. He pulls the blankets off her, and she's naked. Now, like in this episode here, 30 scary 1992 to 2015. Jeez. That's scary. But anyway, he pulls the blankets off, and if anything, she's like screaming naked. Now, what happened was in this episode is that that this was kind of a big deal because the girls were accusing David of like trying to hurt them. And anyone who watched the episode know David was just acting a fool by pulling the blankets. He didn't touch her. They were all goofing off. They were all a little crazy on Cheesecake. They're just having a good time. And it was one of the situations where a good time got out of hand and nobody really worried about it. But then what happened is there was this other person named Beth that kept instigating it and kept saying, like, kept pushing it, which Violetta and Sylvia kind of remind me of is a Beth. And David is like, what are you talking about? And the girls quickly escalated this whole thing from just horseplay to attempted rape. And it's like, what? And eventually it ended up where David had to leave. The producers basically told David he had to go because he was making this girl uncomfortable. And, he left. And all the other guys were just, this is horseshit, this is crap. And, and they said goodbye to him as he left. And they brought some other guy on, and he was only on it for a short period. But he was still pretty cool. But David was unfairly thrown out. Now, I see in this situation where they are kind of just conspiring to do this. And then we find out that later on here is they're bringing in their friends and doing this, and skeletons in the closet, and it's like, wow. But here's the real bombshell. In this episode, Madison admits to a heroin problem, or drug problem she had in the past, to the girls, and she said she will tell Tony when she is ready, but don't tell them first. And now the girls are starting to get a clue where Madison's coming from. It's not that she's crazy, it's just she's so scared of not being accepted, and what she sees is people being crazy, but her. So I don't know, it seemed pretty serious to me where it is. The other thing I've noticed, a little side note, is they show smoking a lot more in this episode. I noticed that because previously, especially in Jersey Shore, cameras would go out of their way to show them not smoking. They really would. They would only, like, if their hands were here puffing out a cigarette, they would show their picture there, but you would see, like, smoke coming from the ashtray. You'd never see it up here. It's true. Check it out on that. But this one, they're a little more liberal about it. I don't know. It's just an observation. But so she tells the girls of her problems in the past with heroin. And it's not like some person she's having a problem with or something. And just everyone's kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. We didn't know about this. And she says, I just don't want people judging me for what I did. I'm trying. And she says, okay. And there's still a danger with those drugs, unfortunately. And, it took a lot of strength to admit that. But the real funny thing is that, but going quickly back to the whole Tommy thing where Tommy wanted Violetta and she's like, screw you, don't you ever talk to me that way, blah, blah, blah. And basically everyone was just drunk again, and then they let their emotions get out of control. It's funny how the theme is in real world. But I don't understand where this tolerance of just this misbehavior, why they're powder kegging this. But anyway, this is DinoRWskel2. My 2 bits to it. We got episode 3 coming up.